Hello, welcome to another UTS Startups Confessions.
That's good.
And so well-deserved for yourself, Sarah. So Sarah Kinkel-Miller, Deputy Dean of the Graduate Research School at UTS. Yep. It's a mouthful.
It is.
But with a really important topic to talk about today. So the Entrepreneurial Future PhD. PhD is already exciting, but now like next level exciting and appropriate for the world that we're living in. Thank you for joining.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so for people watching at home and people here, can you tell us a bit about the history of PhDs?
Yeah, absolutely. So the PhD, the way that we understand it now, originated in Germany in the 19th century. And really it's been sort of traditionally conceptualized as being a stepping stone to an academic career. You go, you do your PhD, you become a professor, you research, you teach, that's what you do. Over the last 200 years, as you would hope, it has become so much more than that. And I think it's really important to note that right now, 85% of UTS research alumni aren't working in traditional academia. They're change makers, they're policy advocates, they're policy analysts, they're entrepreneurs, they're leaders in global organizations across a wide range of industries. And part of the reason why they're able to do that is because at the end of a PhD, you've answered a question or solved a problem in a way that literally no one else before you has ever done. And that, I think, is what makes the PhD the most prestigious international qualification that it is. And that's what prepares people to be able to do all these different kinds of things. Because you haven't just demonstrated mastery of a set of knowledge, you've actually innovated what's possible.
Okay, I don't think people appreciate that.
No, I do not think they do appreciate it as much as they should. So I'm on a mission.
Okay, so coming to today, where does entrepreneurship kind of fit in with a PhD?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think really at a certain level, I mean, if we just sort of take the broader lens, I think that innovation is a core need of a wide range of organizations. And that's true, again, sort of regardless of whether you're talking about a big corporation or a startup or a philanthropic organization, working in a not-for-profit field. I mean, fundamentally, 75% of global CEOs right now say that they know their business isn't adapting fast enough to confront what's coming at them. And that's just what they can see, let alone sort of what's right over the horizon that they can't see yet. So when you look at here in Australia, both large ASX 200 corporations and small and medium enterprises, those organizations that are innovation active, they have higher productivity, higher revenue, and higher job growth. So better results across the board, and that increases the more that you actually adopt novel technology as opposed to just embracing sort of mature tech. So when you then talk to company directors and you say, so why aren't you innovating more? Well, they say the number one reason they don't think they can is because they don't have the right talent. And again, I think that's partly where a PhD comes into it, because it teaches you to be a horizon scanner, to apply these critical thinking and really systems level thinking skills to the problem that's in front of you, and then to test and evaluate a solution and to do it really adaptably. And so I think that those are all things that are sort of fundamental to what we would want to see in entrepreneurs as well. So really, I think that entrepreneurship is already in many ways a research-driven process. We just don't necessarily conceptualize it that way. But from the very earliest stages, when you're trying to validate your idea, you're trying to ask, is this problem even really worth solving? Would it create value? For whom would it create value? Where are my audiences for it? Again, you're probably using research techniques to try to answer some of those questions. Hopefully you're not just relying on the truthiness of it. And again, sort of throughout, as you're building and testing and iterating and trying to find that product market fit, again, I think you're probably using research techniques. I think fundamentally where I see there being a really good overlap between what an entrepreneur wants to do and what a researcher wants to do, the researcher wants to find a new solution to this problem. And the entrepreneur wants to find a better solution to this problem, which is probably a new one, which has value to society. And so you're both trying to find new solutions to a meaningful problem that's going to make something possible that wasn't possible before, or not as easily, or not as effectively, or not as well, right? And so where a PhD program then comes into it, I think, is that we can provide rigor and structure and backbone to this process of exploration and development that you were going to do anyway, but we can help you do it better. We can help you do it more efficiently. We can help you more quickly come to terms with what the current state of play already is, so you can actually focus your attention probably just a little bit more effectively. And of course, that's true across the board, but I think there's also some fields, particularly deep tech, where you don't just need that sort of methodological rigor. You also really do need, I'm thinking about fields like advanced manufacturing, quantum, probably biotech in some ways. You don't just need rigor in how you approach the problem. What you also really need is some of that really sophisticated knowledge that only comes from doing an advanced degree. Again, not a lot of founders in quantum who don't have PhDs. I'm not saying there's none, but I don't know any. So
yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
But this makes me think, all the entrepreneurs that I know that have been developing new things and the approaches that they take and the amount of time and effort they put into developing this new wonderful thing, the artifact that they end up with, it sounds very similar to a PhD process. It's nice to see this kind of overlap of, you're doing it anyway, why not have rigor behind it, support to do it, wonderful kind of world-class mentorship and recognition of the new knowledge you're creating in the process too.
Absolutely. I think that really fundamentally, and again, we have research behind this, which is why I believe it, because I'm a researcher, but if you actually look at Australian employers and you talk to them, they say that of all their employees, the ones that they're most satisfied working with are the ones with research degrees, and that's partly because of the expert knowledge, but it's also because they're the most adaptable problem solvers that they have. Again, that's fundamental, I think, to the way that we need to think about entrepreneurship, and when you talk to the research alumni themselves, they say very similar things. So really, I think that a lot of the entrepreneurial process and a lot of the research process are really well aligned, and we've tried to structure it quite similarly in how we're approaching the Entrepreneurial Future PhD at UTS.
Talk us through that. So how does it hit the ground? What does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So ideally, I think you come to us with a pretty clear idea of the kind of problem you want to solve and what you think the outcome's going to be. Again, where are we going with this? What kind of innovation do you actually want to see on the other side of this? What kind of artifact are we going to build together? You'll be paired with, in our lingo, it's an academic supervisor, but honestly, it's really more like a lead mentor, someone who's an expert in your field whose responsibility to you is to help guide and support and advise you through the process. So really right early on, right at the earliest stages, that person's going to work with you to turn the idea that you have into something that fits in the context of a PhD, to make sure that, again, at the end of this, your entrepreneurial adventure is going to be successful as we can ever sort of guarantee. Obviously, entrepreneurship, not an exact science, but also that it is going to fit within the model of the PhD. So there's already going to be support even before you even enter the program. Then really once you're in with us, you'll actually have an entire panel of mentors who sort of cluster around your problem space. So if, for example, you're looking at robotics for aged care, for example, your primary mentor is probably going to be from the robotics field because that's sort of the product that you're trying to create. That's what you're trying to develop there. You'd probably have another mentor who'd be looking at it from a health tech perspective. And then every PhD student at UTS has the opportunity to have an industry expert on their panel. So then probably you'd be looking at having someone from the aged care sector, someone who actually speaks to your customers, speaks to your market, so that again, you're actually making sure that what you're building is fit for purpose. So you're gonna have this really rigorous support around you from this panel of experts. Next thing you're going to do a scoping study. You're going to say, what's the current state of play? What's current knowledge in this field? Cutting edge knowledge in this field? What's been tried and failed? What's tried and succeeded, but not in quite the ways we would have wanted? And then from there, you move to designing, building, testing, iterating the artifact that you're actually working towards. And that can be any one of a variety of things. I think probably for the purposes of the Entrepreneurial Future PhD, we're probably talking most likely about something like a medtech device, a new material, a prototype, a software algorithm. It could be any one of those things. It also could be a new creative product. I mean, students in other kinds of areas sometimes do I've seen someone whose thesis circulated around a regulatory framework for technology. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it. But the point is that developing and testing that artifact, that's the meat in your PhD sandwich. And then the bread around it is this intellectual framing for your academic audience, because it is still an academic PhD. Again, you're going to be a doctor on the other side of this. As my parents remind me, not the useful kind of doctor, but nevertheless, mom and dad, you are a doctor. And so you frame it then with this intellectual content around what is the problem, why is it meaningful, why do we need to solve it, how have people tried to solve it before, what is it that you've actually done that's new, and again, basically, so what have we learned here? And that's really then the thesis that you walk away with. So you walk away with this artifact that you've invested this time and this expertise. It's now at the cutting edge of knowledge, but you also have this intellectual project as well. So it's much shorter than what we would conceptualize as a traditional thesis. And a couple of other points I think that are really useful just to note in that. As a student, you own your IP. So that's really helpful to know up front. You are never alone in this. Again, you have this panel of experts who are there to support you throughout, but you also have the option to be a member of UTS Startups, as we know, the largest community of startups in Australia. The Graduate Research School, which I'm a part of, runs an entire calendar of free professional development and support for our students. So that's everything from how do you find and organize information through to how do you actually project manage this really quite complex piece of work that you're engaged in, to how do you actually bring people along with you on this journey. And that's everything from academic publishing to podcasting for people who are stuck in the Roselle interchange, as I am many days at the moment. And it's all free. This professional development is free. And it's really helpful to note that actually for most domestic Australian students, permanent residents, citizens, a research degree is free as well. You're not accumulating HECS debt. We all have the Australian federal government to thank for that. So most domestic research students are not paying tuition fees.
That's the thing. There's been a bit of a splash around the Startup Year program and people enrolling in that. So you end up with, $14,000 of debt and a year of programming for Startup Year. For this, you end up with no debt.
That's right.
And end up with a PhD qualification.
That's right.
And leave a doctor and a CEO.
That's right. That's
Sounds
correct.
pretty good.
It's honestly a really good deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, why UTS?
Yeah, look, so fundamentally, what UTS is really passionate about is practical, applied research that is leading to real solutions to real problems. That's what we're really exceptional at. We are the #1 university in Australia when it comes to the proportion of our research that has a high impact on the economy, the environment, and society. So we do this kind of work already. That's really, again, our bread and butter. 60% of our research is already done in partnership with external organizations, and that's everything from, again, global corporations to government departments, startups. We work with startups. We work with NGOs and philanthropic organizations. And none of those organizations are sort of sitting around twiddling their thumbs wondering, they're not waiting for answers. They need answers now. They have real problems now. And our researchers are used to working with that. Again, we do it now. We have researchers here who are leaders in their field in Australia and globally in areas like AI, data science, electromagnetics, microelectronics, forensics, optics. Again, an entire raft of certainly deep tech fields, but also we have people in places like the Institute for Sustainable Futures and the Human Technology Institute who are thinking about the implications of this technology from a holistic systems perspective, what effect will it actually have on society, how do we exercise responsible leadership in the innovations that we generate, and we have a host of researchers as well who are experts in entrepreneurship. How do you actually bring these things to market, and what does that need to look like? So again, you have access to that. One of the things that I'm always really excited about here at UTS is the really cool range of facilities that we have, which our research community has access to. So that at our tech lab facility, that's everything from like a vibration lab where you can test civil infrastructure. We also just used it to test the largest object that Australia is ever going to have sent into space. So we tested it for vibration. So that was cool. We have a microalgae production facility there. We have Australia's largest near field antenna anechoic chamber, which is a very fancy way of saying it's a literal cone of silence. And once you get in here, in the cone of silence, you can test things like communication technologies, sensing technologies, because it cuts out outside communication so you don't get any interference. We have the most advanced additive manufacturing facility in Australia. We have the Vault, which is our new cybersecurity and data facility that's been built to Department of Defense specifications. So if you would like to work in cyber, that might be the kind of facility that would be really interesting to you. We also have some really fun things, like we have one of the most advanced 3D knitting machines in the Southern Hemisphere, which you might think that's just for clothes, and it does do lovely sweaters, very cool sweaters, but it actually also has applications from healthcare to automotive to aerospace. So we do this kind of work, we have the experts, we have the facilities, but then I think the other fundamental piece is, again, we have the networks, really. Nobody does this alone. We already, as I said, work with a huge range of organizations. So depending on your business model, you might be in quite a warm relationship with people who are really big stakeholders for you. Again, everyone from Microsoft to Transport for New South Wales. We have global research networks, so you're not just at the forefront of cutting edge knowledge in Australia, you're really at the forefront globally. So just to take aerospace as an example, we have students who have done work with NASA, the Jet Propulsion Lab, the German Aerospace Center. Again, if you're looking at doing something in space, those are good people to be connected with. And I think also fundamentally, and again, I'm aware I'm preaching to the choir here and preaching to the choir here and here as well, but innovation entrepreneurship is really at the heart of the way that UTS wants to approach our place in the world. So we, again, have the largest community of startups in Australia. I think that's really critical to keep reiterating. We are a longtime partner and investor in the innovation ecosystem in Sydney. So we're a shareholder, for example, in Cicada Innovations, which is the deep tech incubator in Australia. We are partners with Energy Lab, where they are developing clean tech and climate tech and sustainable energy, for example. And we are literally, right now at the heart of Tech Central, which is only, I think, going to become more prominent in the years to come. So really, UTS is just fundamentally embedded in these research networks and in just what's it is the largest and most vibrant startup ecosystem in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's why UTS. Yeah.
Okay. Dear God, we are copy-pasting that into all our other videos. That can just be a pre-roll. But that was fantastic. And also joining, 1,000 engineering PhDs and 1,000 other kind of PhDs currently. That's right.
So you're joining this, again, really rich, robust research community. Again, we have 2,000 professional sort of staff researchers at UTS. We have another over 2,000 research students. And if you come here to do this Entrepreneurial Future PhD, you're joining people who are already doing this work. And that's where I think, again, it's really helpful to know that these things do go hand in hand. Obviously the best example of this is, of course, Google was founded while those guys were PhD students, so we know it can be done. But here at UTS as well, we right now, today, have people who have patented products and VC investment, and they're getting commercialization grants, and they're bringing things to market in areas like AI algorithms for health tech applications, or lab-grown meat, or robotics for space and large civil infrastructure, or cryptographic systems that will be able to withstand attacks by quantum computers, because that is something we will want in the future. And students right here at UTS right now, today, are developing this entrepreneurially. And obviously those examples are all quite deep tech, but we also have students and recent alumni who have startups in the diversity and inclusion area. They're bringing together business models from the creative industries to do something new. We have a lot of people working in the sustainability space and sort of doing work around, like, for example, how do we help small and medium enterprises actually come to terms with the modern ESG landscape and build that into their business models in a way that's actually feasible and sustainable for them. And so again, all of those students are doing that work right now. I think while a lot of them are coming out of sort of deep tech sectors, there is no shortage of problems, I think, that could benefit from evidence-driven solutions right now. So there's no ring fencing on this.
I can see like there are people lining up already to join up. I'm sure there are people online as well. What do they do? How do they get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really the first step is, as I said, ideally you come to us with a pretty clear sense of what it is that you actually do want to do. We will help you from there. So the first step is to find that primary mentor for yourself. You can do that through UTS Discovery Profiles, which is profiles.uts.edu.au. You can also always come to the Graduate Research School. We work across all of our faculties, all of our research institutes. You can find us at gradresearch.uts.edu.au. You can email us at grs@uts.edu.au. You can also just talk to me on LinkedIn. You will be able to find me on LinkedIn. I live there, it's fine. And we're always happy to work with people, because I think particularly for research students and particularly for entrepreneurs, again, what you're doing is unique. You will have a unique journey through this. It should be customizable for you, the problem you're solving, the supervisors you have around you, the wealth of expertise that you are bringing with you, and what it is that you want to do on the other side of this. That clusters together to be a really unique set of factors. We recognize that, and we really want to help, again, sort of help support you as an individual through that. So we are really there, certainly in the GRS, we are there to help support you and to try to help you navigate the university as best as we can, from even before you apply through to after you actually complete and walk away as a doctor and a CEO. So.
And this, how many people can we take? Because I feel like this is going to be a problem.
So we don't have a cap on this right now. I think, again, fundamentally, it's about making sure that we are in a position to help you be successful, because it is such a one-on-one curated program. But I think that really the enthusiasm is there. As I said, this is work that our researchers are doing now. And I think really fundamentally, why is UTS doing this now? It is because we know that we need more evidence-driven solutions, not fewer. We need more innovation in our economy, our environment, and our society, not less. And so we're really, really passionate about working with research students who are going to be the ones who take this new knowledge and actually put it into practice. This is our bread and butter. This is where we want to live. So.
Okay. Thank you. The UTS Entrepreneurial Future PhD.
Yep, that's right.
I'll put some links in the description below.
Yep.
That was incredible. Join me in thanking Sarah.